On the morning of June 9th, 2008, police found a GMC Envoy abandoned on the Bear Mountain Bridge, high above the Hudson River in New York. The keys were still inside. So was a bottle of pills. And written through the dust and pollen on the hood were 3 words: "Suicide is painless." The owner of the car was Samuel Israel III, a 48-year-old Wall Street hedge fund manager. He was supposed to report to federal prison that morning to begin serving a 20-year sentence. But he never arrived. For years, Israel had told investors that his hedge fund was generating steady profits. He had supplied them with professional-looking statements. He had produced independent audits. He had built an investment company trusted with more than $450 million. There was just one problem. Almost all of it was a lie. The profits were fake. The auditor was fake. The financial statements were fake. And now, it appeared, Samuel Israel was dead. Authorities searched the river. Divers looked for a body. Police investigated the apparent suicide. But there was no body, because Samuel Israel had not jumped from the bridge. He had abandoned his car, climbed into a recreational vehicle prepared in advance, and disappeared. He had obtained false identification. He had equipped the RV with a television, a mattress, and a scooter. And while police searched the river for his remains, Israel was driving away from the prison sentence waiting for him. But here is the contradiction at the center of the story. Samuel Israel was not just the mastermind.
Samuel Israel III did not arrive on Wall Street looking like an outsider. He came from a wealthy and respected New Orleans family with deep connections to the commodities business. His grandfather and namesake had helped build a major commodity trading company. The family name already carried weight in financial circles. That mattered. Wall Street is supposed to operate on numbers, documents, and verifiable results, but it also operates on reputation. Investors do not only ask, "What are the returns?" They ask, "Who is managing the money? Who knows him? Where did he come from? Does he look like someone we can trust?" Samuel Israel had the right background. He spoke the language. He understood the culture. And in 1996, he founded a hedge fund business that would become known as the Bayou Hedge Fund Group. The promise was simple. Give Bayou your money, and its traders would invest it using sophisticated hedge fund strategies. They would control risk, navigate different market conditions, and produce attractive returns. At first, Bayou did not need to be the greatest hedge fund in America. It only needed to appear competent. But almost immediately, the results began moving in the wrong direction. Bayou lost money.
The most dangerous moment in a financial fraud is not when millions disappear. It is the moment someone decides that a temporary lie will solve a permanent problem. Imagine a child receives a bad grade at school. He is afraid to show it to his parents, so he changes the grade. Now he has 2 problems. He still does not understand the schoolwork, and he must prevent anyone from discovering the altered report. Next month, he receives another bad grade. He changes that one too. Soon, he is not working to improve his grades. He is working to protect the lie. That was Bayou. After the fund suffered losses, Israel and his associates began reporting profits that did not exist. The lie appeared to work. Investors saw positive results. They left their money inside the fund. New investors arrived. Bayou remained alive. But hedge funds are not supposed to simply announce their own performance and expect everyone to believe it. Their financial records are supposed to be examined by independent auditors. An independent auditor is like a referee. The investment manager says, "We made this amount of money." The auditor checks the records and says, "Yes, these numbers are accurate." But Bayou had a problem. A real auditor would see that the claimed profit.
Once the false records were in place, Bayou could tell investors almost any story it wanted. Losses became profits. Bad years became successful years. A struggling hedge fund became a reliable Wall Street performer. According to the Securities and Exchange Commission, investors deposited more than $450 million into Bayou funds and a predecessor fund between 1996 and 2005. But the most revealing numbers came from 2003. Bayou told investors that 4 of its funds had generated a combined profit of approximately $4,000. The trading records showed something very different. Those funds had actually lost approximately $49 million. That is a gap of $92 million between the story investors were told and what had really happened. But the lie did more than protect Israel's reputation. It generated money. Hedge fund managers commonly charge management fees and performance fees.
If the fund makes money, the manager can receive a percentage of those profits. But Bayou was charging incentive fees based on profits that did not exist. The fund was losing money. The documents said it was making money. And the managers were withdrawing fees based on the fabricated results. The fake returns also attracted new investors. Those new investments allowed Bayou to satisfy some withdrawal requests from existing clients, creating a dynamic similar to a Ponzi scheme. As long as enough new money arrived, the machine could continue. But that kind of machine has one fatal weakness. The money inside the account is real. The profits on the statements are not. Eventually, the gap between the two becomes too large to hide. And by the middle of 2004, Bayou's problems had become impossible to solve through normal trading. So Israel went looking for a miracle. That was when one of Wall Street's most successful liars met people who were even better at lying than he was.
By 2004, Israel and his associates had largely suspended Bayou's normal securities trading. Approximately $150 million in remaining fund assets was transferred into other investments, including so-called prime bank programs. Prime bank schemes are built around a simple fantasy. The victim is told that secret financial instruments exist inside the global banking system. These opportunities are supposedly available only to governments, central banks, intelligence agencies, and extremely wealthy insiders. The returns are described as enormous. The risk is described as almost non-existent. And the entire program is kept intentionally vague because it is allegedly confidential. Israel encountered people claiming they had access to these secret opportunities. One contact reportedly presented himself as a former intelligence operative connected to classified government projects and secret banking networks. The promise was exactly what Israel needed to hear. Send the money into this exclusive program. Receive extraordinary returns. Recover Bayou's losses. Repay the investors.
Make the entire problem disappear. It was absurd. But desperate people do not evaluate promises the same way comfortable people do. If someone offered Israel a normal investment returning 8% per year, it could not save Bayou. He needed something impossible. And when you need an impossible return, you become the perfect victim for someone selling an impossible investment. Investigators later discovered that Israel had poured Bayou's remaining assets into fraudulent transactions. The hedge fund manager who had fooled sophisticated investors with fake documents was now being fooled with fake documents of his own. The con man had become the mark. And this is the contradiction that makes the Bayou case so extraordinary. Israel apparently believed that one final miracle could generate enough money to repair years of fraud. But there was no miracle. The secret program was not real. The extraordinary profits never arrived. On July 27, 2005, Samuel Israel sent a letter to Bayou's investors. The fund was shutting down. Investors were told that their money would be returned. But Bayou did not have enough money to return. The operation began collapsing. The supposedly successful fund had sustained consistent losses. The profits shown to investors had been fabricated. The independent auditor had been created by Bayou itself, and much of the remaining capital had been transferred into fraudulent investment schemes. The numbers could no longer be manipulated into respectability. In September 2005, Israel pleaded guilty to conspiracy, investment advisor fraud, and mail fraud. According to federal prosecutors, more than $450 million had been invested in Bayou over the life of the scheme. The fund's collapse caused investors losses of approximately $300 million. Samuel Israel was not accused of personally escaping with all $450 million.
Some money had been lost through bad trading. Some had been used for withdrawals. Some had been diverted. Some had been placed into other fraudulent investments. But the central crime was clear. Investors had been convinced to hand over hundreds of millions of dollars using performance records and audits that were not real.
On April 14, 2008, a federal judge sentenced Israel to 20 years in prison. The judge called him the mastermind of the fraud and said the sentence was intended to demonstrate that people who commit crimes while wearing a tie do not receive special treatment. Israel was ordered to pay $300 million in restitution. He was given a date to surrender, June 9, 2008. For years, Samuel Israel had delayed consequences by inventing better numbers. Now, there were no numbers left to invent. The only thing standing between him and prison was reality. So he decided to fake reality too. In the days before his surrender date, Israel prepared to disappear. According to federal authorities, he obtained false identification. He acquired a recreational vehicle. The RV was equipped with a television, a mattress, and a scooter. This was not a sudden moment of panic. It was an escape plan. On June 9, 2008, the day he was supposed to begin his 20-year prison sentence, Israel drove his SUV to the Bear Mountain Bridge. He left the vehicle on the bridge. The keys remained inside. There was a bottle of pills, and written through the dust on the hood were the words, "Suicide is painless," the phrase title of the theme song from the movie and television series MASH. It was designed to create an immediate conclusion. A disgraced hedge fund manager facing 20 years in prison had driven to a bridge, left behind his medication, and taken his own life. But Israel was not in the Hudson River. After abandoning the SUV, an associate drove him to a rest area where the prepared RV was waiting. Then he fled. For the first time, one of Bayou's greatest fabrications did not involve a financial statement.
It involved Samuel Israel himself. He had spent years creating fake profits. Now he had created a fake corpse. The apparent suicide did not fool investigators for long. No body was recovered. Authorities began looking into Israel's preparations. They discovered the false identifications. They learned about the RV. They examined the people who had helped him. What had initially looked like a suicide investigation became a fugitive manhunt. Some suspected Israel had fled the United States. Perhaps he had hidden money overseas. Perhaps the bridge was only the beginning of a carefully planned international escape. The reality was much less impressive. Israel had driven north to Massachusetts. He was living in the RV at a campground under the name David Clapp. The man who had once controlled hundreds of millions of dollars was hiding in a recreational vehicle, traveling short distances on a motorized scooter, and buying food and cigarettes from a campground store. He had not escaped to a private island. He had not reached a country without an extradition treaty. He had not begun a luxurious new life using hidden millions. He was only a few hours from New York, and he was running out of options. Federal authorities pressured his friends, family members, and former associates. Israel eventually contacted his mother. Her advice was simple: turn yourself in. On July 2, 2008, after 23 days as a fugitive, Samuel Israel arrived at a police station in Southwick, Massachusetts, on his scooter. He reportedly told officers, "I am a fugitive. I was supposed to go to jail, and I'd like to turn myself in." His attempt to escape a 20-year prison sentence was over, and it had lasted less than a month.
Fake country death did not erase his original punishment. It made it worse. In 2009, a federal judge sentenced him to an additional 2 years in prison for failing to surrender. The sentence was consecutive. That meant it was added to the 20 years he was already required to serve. His fake suicide had not given him freedom. It had transformed a 20-year sentence into a 22-year sentence. And the judge described Israel's decision to flee as thumbing his nose at the system. That is the final contradiction of the story. Samuel Israel had spent years believing that one more lie could delay the consequences of the previous lie. The first trading loss led to a false performance report. The false report required a fake audit. The fake audit attracted new money.
The new money increased the size of the fraud. The expanding fraud created a desperate search for impossible returns. That desperation led Israel into another scam. The collapse led to a criminal conviction. The conviction led to a fake suicide. And the fake suicide led to more prison time. Every lie solved the immediate problem and made the final problem worse.
Bayou's fraud sounds complicated because it involved hedge funds, trading strategies, private placement transactions, and hundreds of millions of dollars. But the basic mechanism was remarkably simple. Imagine you give someone $100 to invest. At the end of the year, he has lost $20. But instead of telling you that only $80 remains, he sends you a statement saying you now have $110. Then he creates a fake accounting company to confirm that the $110 is real. You are impressed, so you give him another $100. You also tell your friends that he is an excellent investor. They give him money too. If you ask to withdraw $20, he can pay you using money deposited by the new investors. Receiving the $20 makes you trust him even more. The fraud continues as long as three things remain true. New money keeps arriving. Too many investors do not ask for their money back at once, and no genuinely independent person verifies the assets. Bayou failed all three tests. The returns were not independently confirmed. The supposed auditor was controlled by the fund, and the documents investors received did not reflect the actual trading accounts. The complexity of the hedge fund industry gave the fraud somewhere to hide. When investors did not understand the strategy, they treated professional-looking documents as proof. But a document only proves something if the person producing it is independent, trustworthy, and able to verify the underlying assets. Bayou had created the appearance of verification without the reality of it.
The Bayou scandal was not simply a story about one dishonest hedge fund manager. It was a lesson about the danger of trusting appearances. Bayou had an impressive founder. It had sophisticated investment language. It had financial statements. It had an accounting firm. It reported steady performance. Everything investors expected to see was present. But much of it was theater. The auditor's name existed. The independents did not. The profits appeared on statements. The money did not exist in the accounts. The fund appeared successful. Its real trading performance was consistently poor. This is why independent custody, reputable third-party administrators, and genuinely independent audits matter. You do not ask the person holding your money to prove that he is honestly holding your money. You ask someone outside his control. And you verify that the outside party actually exists. The second lesson is about suspiciously consistent returns. Real markets move. Strategies experience difficult months. Unexpected events happen. A fund that appears to produce smooth, positive returns regardless of market conditions may be exceptionally talented. Or it may be hiding volatility and losses. Consistency can create trust, but impossible consistency should create questions. The third lesson is the most important. Samuel Israel III did not escape with $450 million. He did not build a new life on a tropical island, and he did not vanish forever. He ran a hedge fund into losses. He covered those losses with fake financial statements. He helped create a fake accounting firm to issue fake independent audits. He attracted more than $450 million from investors. He poured much of the fund's remaining money into another fraudulent scheme. He pleaded guilty. He received a 20-year prison sentence. Then, on the day he was supposed to surrender, he abandoned his SUV on a bridge, wrote "Suicide is painless" on the hood, and disappeared in a prepared RV. 23 days later, he arrived at a Massachusetts police station on a scooter and turned himself in. And his attempted escape added another 2 years to his sentence. But the most disturbing part of the story is not the fake suicide. It is how long the first lie survived. For years, sophisticated investors trusted performance reports they could not independently verify. They trusted an auditor without discovering that the auditor was controlled by the fund. And they trusted steady profits without seeing the assets that supposedly produced them. Samuel Israel's final lie lasted 23 days. His financial lie lasted almost a decade.
So here is the question. Was Samuel Israel a criminal mastermind? Or was he simply a failed trader who told one lie, discovered that it worked, and then spent the rest of his life trying to stay ahead of it? Drop your answer in the comments. And if you want to understand how the biggest financial frauds actually work, not the complicated version, but the real one, subscribe. Because the most dangerous lie in finance